That's the sound of a sickle bar mower cutting through the hemp at Herm Cvetan's farm in Lawrence County, Pennsylvania. And this is the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. My name is Eric Hurlock, and today's show is the last installment of our National Hemp Tour series. The last stop on our tour was in western Pennsylvania. First, we stopped in to check out the harvest at Herm's farm, and then we drove over to Newcastle, Pennsylvania to see the Project PA hemp home being built by the folks from Don Enterprise, a nonprofit organization in western PA that empowers people with disabilities to live independently. So what Don Enterprise is doing out in western Pennsylvania, I think, is rather revolutionary. They are attempting to build a supply chain for hemp in order to grow the hemp locally to make houses for people with disabilities. This, I think, is revolutionary. I haven't heard of anyone else in the world doing anything like this. And it was really special for this to be our last stop. You know, just the name itself, Project PA Hemp Home. After 6 weeks on the road, it was fantastic to be back in Pennsylvania and to get to experience something special like this really just was icing on the cake. So anyway, we're going to hear a few different perspectives today. We're going to talk to the Vice President of Development, Lori Daytner. We'll talk to Chris Lloyd, the founder and president of Don Enterprise, as well as Philip Berezniak. He's the chief counsel and business partner of Chris Lloyd. Plus, we'll talk to the farmer responsible for growing some of the hemp, Herm Cvetan, and we will check in with the Mayor of Newcastle, Chris Frye. Just a quick shout out to our tour sponsors, IND Hemp, New Holland Agriculture, the National Hemp Association, Rosedowns, Amerishon Cast Hemp, Victory Foods, Bish Enterprises, Pterodon Hemp, and King's AgriSeeds. Thank you all for your support. So these interviews were recorded 2 weeks ago today. It was the very last day of our tour. We got up bright and early and went over to Herm Cvetan's farm where they were cutting hemp. I talked to Lori Daytner and I talked to Herm Cvetan there at the farm. So let's listen to those interviews. Lori Daytner, how are you?
Oh, great, Eric. Welcome home to Pennsylvania.
Thanks.
So glad to be here with you today.
Yeah, where are we?
We are at Herm Cvetan's home in Mount Jackson, Pennsylvania. What we're looking at today is the harvesting of our bee lab, which did very well for us last year. And so we tried it again this year. You're standing on some Hulhivsky 51. It's a Ukrainian variety that this is our first year testing. Also did very well for us. So we're happy to see that 2 years in a row we're getting healthy stands. Now the really hard work is going to start with understanding all the data points and trying to figure out what we need to do from a soil amendment standpoint, from a timing standpoint, from seeding rates, all of those tens of variables that I'm learning about as we move forward with this.
And so he's cutting it now?
Yes, and you can smell the freshly cut hemp. It's a powerful scent.
Yeah. And so what, you'll leave it here to field ret for a few weeks?
Yes, we did various tries at retting last year at the 4 farms that we worked with in Pennsylvania. So last year we baled it as soon as it was ready at Herm's farm, meaning as soon as it was dry enough. But funny enough, that ended up being a week after he took it down. So this year we're going to go a little bit further, see if we can't get some more practice and experience doing that.
Okay. And then this, what are you going to do with this crop once it's dried and baled?
Well, we continue to do the work that we're doing with outreach with companies to test hemp fiber in their products. That is a very long road. So as I mentioned, we're super glad to hear about other folks who have already moved into decortication and are helping to pave that path before us. We're doing our best here to make sure that we're ready to do it as best we can when the point comes that we can make that investment. So we don't have an offtake agreement yet, but that's okay. Soybeans started out very slowly. What was it, 50, 60 years ago? And now it's half of the production in this region. So we think we're on the right track.
You're optimistic.
Yeah, we're as Chris Lloyd, our founder, says, we don't run to be first. We just want to be best.
And then I talked to Herm Cvetan. He's the farmer who's growing the hemp here on his land. All right, so Herm, could you introduce yourself for me?
My name's Herm Cvetan. We own 240 acres here, and I've started a hemp business. Well, not the hemp business, but started raising hemp for Dawn Services, and it's been a real learning experience.
Yeah. How does growing hemp compare to growing other crops?
Not a whole lot of difference. The biggest problem is the research of how, when, and why. And that was with Sarah, answered some questions of what.
That's Sarah Mitchell from King's AgriSeeds.
Yes.
Yeah.
We covered a lot of territory here. Lori and her bunch do a great job of providing everything we need, but when it comes down to this end of the farming end of it, we're the ones trying to figure this out yet.
Yeah.
The research on this end of the state is not the greatest. We went from growing 2 to 3 acres last year to growing about 6 this year.
Okay.
And if we'd have had the seed, there would have been 12 acres here.
Okay.
But we'd have planted 12 acres kind of in the dark. We learned a little bit last year, but you don't learn a whole lot planting a couple, 3 acres.
Right. You got to go bigger.
And we learned more this year than we did last year, but there's some problems that we're trying to work out with drone over top of here. I'm hoping to learn a lot.
Okay.
Then we can look down and say, hey, okay, this here.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about what you used to plant it. Was it a seed drill?
We used a grain drill, and we just scattered on top, and then we rolled it with a cultivar mulcher in the ground. That's all we did. And we got nice stands and everything, but there's some other problems in here that we're trying to see if we can get worked out. We got some of this up and down.
Okay.
And we're not sure where that's coming from. And Sarah explained to me too, on the fiber end of it, you want to see these stalks where the leaves are up higher.
Okay.
And it's a learning experience.
Yeah. Talk about your inputs. Any inputs here?
We did put fertilizer down this year that we never put down, that we didn't do last year. I put some cow manure on it, but it was very little. And I do attribute some of that, a good bit of that, to what we do have here. We put a fair amount of fertilizer down.
Yeah.
I don't know the analysis right now. It's in the house.
Right.
But we chiseled it and then disced it, rolled it with a cultivar mulcher, worked it down, and then put the grain drill to it, and just on top of the ground, and then rolled it, and it seemed to work good.
When did that go in? Was that back in May?
22nd of May I went in.
Okay. And then what's he cutting it with, a sickle bar mower
Cut it
now?
with a sickle bar. We used disc vines last year, his and mine, and it was hard on him.
Was it wrapping up?
Yeah, the fines and parts of it would get in underneath and wrap, and that, and it caused some problems. He said about sickle bar, and I wasn't sure. I said, well, I thought that'd be a good idea, and it's worked out tremendous.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just selling right along there.
And then, so what? You'll let it ret in the field for a week or so, or?
Yeah, she's talking probably 2 weeks. She said
2 weeks. Okay.
We're going to leave it longer this year than we did last year, and I think it was just a little over a week last year.
And then you'll bale it.
We'll round bale, rake it. I don't know if we may come through with a hay tedder and stir it up once here, this end of this week, first of next week, and let it go from there.
All right. So how about next year? Y'all in on next year's crop?
We're all in on it. Now, she did say she was going to cut back this year. I'm not sure where their thoughts are, which makes no difference to me. But it's getting this to a processor.
Yeah.
Is, last year I had 6 bales here. It was what we got out of it. I think there was a few here and there, but not a whole lot.
Yeah.
They're going to have, I don't think she realizes how
much
many bales is going to come out of here. And I stored some in here, but my barn's not water perfect, so
yeah,
she wants it to stay dry.
Right.
So she is. I think she's going to be overwhelmed here before too long.
How do you feel about building houses out of what you're growing in the field?
Oh, I think that's great. Anything that's renewable is a good thing to do. I'm glad that that people are doing what they are doing with this to be able to do things like that. Any renewable sources is now, I think, a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a tree hugger by a long shot, but we're trying to get a solar project put in this township right now, and we're right up against the block wall right now with our township supervisors, and it's renewable. You already lost your coal, your nuclear, and all this. We're gonna have to plug these electric cars in somewhere, and this may come into something of a renewable source for energy.
Yeah.
Who knows? 60 years ago, 65 years ago, soybeans come into this area. Soybeans, we raise that's Illinois, Iowa crop, Indiana, not through there. We don't raise soybeans here. Well, a few guys started. But the difference of that is when it came into this area, well, how much am I going to make off of this? Well, okay, it's $5 and some odd cents a bushel. You make 50 bushels, $250 an acre. Okay, and whatever you put into it. We haven't come up with that yet here. And I have a hard time trying to explain to the farmers around here when they see me growing this and how much and this and that. Well, what's in it for you or what's in it for me? We haven't come up with that yet. We need to come up with an end price to be able to tell these fellas, okay, if you grow this, this is what you're going to end up with,
right.
About.
Yeah, it's got to work for farmers or it's not going to work at all.
It got to work for us. For it to work for Dawn Services is the processing. We got to get processed. Yeah. For it to work for us, we got to come up with a gross or net price for
right.
what it is per acre. And we haven't come up with that yet, and we do need to do that. I don't know what it's like down in your area, how they do that or what. Now, she was saying that Steve Groff down there, she's got 1,000 acres worth sitting in his warehouse yet.
That's Dr. Steve Groff from York County.
Yeah,
he contracted a bunch of farmers in 2019 to grow about 1,000 acres.
Yeah, and that's hard. That's hard to take.
Yeah,
I mean.
Yeah, well, he paid them all. Which is,
yeah. Well, I'm not. That's not where I'm going with it. But I mean, these fellas up here and anywhere, we need to know what's coming out of this field, how much we're going to get, and they need to work on that a little bit because this is what they want to know.
Yep.
Inputs, they'll play with inputs. Well, we need a little more fertilizer next year. Well, maybe we'll cut back next year. And as seeding rates and things, they'll, I guess we'll put a little more on or a little less, whatever it calls for. But they still need to know, okay, when I got that all baled up and sitting in my barn, when I get rid of it, what am I going to get?
Yeah.
And it's not there, and we need it. I talked to Lori about it, but I realize she's on the selling end of it and processing for that, but I'm on the growing end.
Right.
And it's hard to tell. Just like these two fellows that are here we're getting this mowed with. You know, they live right down the road and they grow beans and corn and wheat, and you know, I can't tell them, well, you know, if you put some of that into hemp, this is what you're going to get. I can't tell them that. And,
all right. Well, Herm, thank you for talking to me this morning. Congratulations on a second year of hemp crop.
Yep. Well, we're planning on a third.
So from Herm Cvetan's farm, we drove a short distance to the town of Newcastle, where the Project PA Hemp Home is under construction. And there were a lot of people there that morning. A lot of folks from Dawn Enterprise, including CEO Chris Lloyd and Chief Counsel Philip Berezniak. Plus Action News from Pittsburgh was there, and a few other local reporters. And the Mayor of Newcastle himself, Chris Frye. So these next few interviews were conducted there at the Project PA Hemp Home. So first up is Lori Daytner again, and she's the Vice President of Development at Dawn Enterprise, and she's the one who's just in the thick of it with the hemp research. And please forgive the background noise. There was the mower before, and now there's a ventilation fan, so thank you for bearing with me.
When we decided to do this project, we needed to find a house that was within the current project area. And what I mean by current project are affordable housing initiative that we are doing here in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. So there weren't many options. It had to be a small size. It had to be a footprint that we could afford to redo, and it had to be available, meaning no liens on it. We started with a list of about 25 and we got down to it. So there were a lot of issues with this house, just structurally. So, you know, when people ask us, you know, what does it compare? What's the cost? It's like comparing not just apples and oranges, but grapefruits and maybe, I don't know.
Avocados.
Yeah. So that's not really the best learning that we're getting from this. Our learning is going to come from the research and testing being done by Pennsylvania Housing Research Center and by Parsons Healthy Materials Lab in New York on the thermal energy performance and the air quality. The other learning is certainly in construction techniques. Cameron McIntosh, the Mayor of Newcastle, will tell you he learned a lot doing this as well. And now that learning has spread to our crew. And they're very excited about it. They keep telling me, if we do one from the ground up, we would do it this way, this way, this way. It would cost a lot less. We have ways that we would reconfigure things. So there's been a huge amount of excitement about it. And I think, as I said, coming up to this second floor, because there are a lot of people down there right now, but the sense of peace and quiet is just not something you get in a traditionally, a house built with traditional materials. So we think that we are at the very beginning of something really special.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think they are at the beginning of something very special, and it could have, a major impact not only in Newcastle, Pennsylvania, but in the Western Pennsylvania region, even the whole state, even this region of the country. Anyway, our next interview is with Chris Lloyd. He's the founder and CEO of Dawn Enterprise, and he's joined by Philip Berezniak, his chief counsel and business partner. And you can tell these two have known each other and worked together for a long time. They're quite entertaining. Hello and welcome to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you today?
Doing all right. Could you introduce yourselves for me, please?
My name is Chris Lloyd.
And you are?
I'm the president of Dawn.
Okay, and you founded Dawn.
I founded Dawn, but now I'm just the president.
Okay. And you are?
My name is Philip Berezniak.
Philip Berezniak, and we spoke last year on the podcast.
We did. I had the pleasure of being on the podcast with Lori several months ago.
Yeah, so where are we now?
As far as
where are we sitting?
You're sitting inside the first hemp house constructed in the state of Pennsylvania.
And this is in Newcastle.
It's in Newcastle, Pennsylvania, known as the Lower East Side.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was a collaboration by a lot of different entities in Pennsylvania. I can't remember the name of the concrete guy, the
Hempcrete.
guy.
Cameron McIntosh with
Yes,
the mayor, Sean
McIntosh.
Caston. Yep,
With-
actually one of our sponsors for the tour.
Absolutely, and
Yep.
I mean,
Great
just
guy.
a lot of wonderful people have been involved. We had a lady from Erie. I didn't know this until yesterday. Who's a master plasterer, and she volunteered. She came down and put some of the plaster up on the walls. So the community is really supporting this.
The interest
They're
in this
just
is-
the interest in looking at, watching what we're doing, and how many people want this house.
Sure.
We're gonna do a lottery.
So tell me about the mission of Dawn Enterprises and then how this project fits into that mission.
Well, it's the mission of Dawn. Dawn is made up of 7 different corporations. But our initial corporation, we're a disability rights organization. We're disability rights advocates. Our focus is on making places accessible. So when we started building houses, which we knew we wanted to do, we just didn't know how to do it. When court came along, we started building houses through the FHL Bank. They're all wheelchair accessible, 100% accessible. This is going to be visitable, not accessible, but it will be visitable because it was a 2-story house that we had to work with. The Centers for Independent Living, which is DAWN, Disability Options Network, is a unique organization. It is run by and for people with disabilities. My funding source requires that we have 50% of our staff and 51% of our board of directors have to be people with disabilities. We're 100% board of directors and I think about 96% staff, because they're the people that understand disability rights. So I've been involved
better
with
to
it for about,
advocate?
what?
Who better to advocate?
Right. I've been involved with it for about 25 years. Our small amount of grant money that we got from the federal government for the centers wasn't enough. So we knew we had to do something to generate some revenue. We created Dawn Services, which provides direct care services to people with disabilities in their homes. And again, we kind of understand what they need, and we tend to take people that are more needy than other providers. But it's doubled in size every year since 2005. It has been a funding source, and it continues to be. We
Second
created
largest employer in the county right
second
now.
largest employer in Lawrence
Lawrence
County.
That's correct.
Then we created Disability Options, or no, Dawn Management. I'm sorry, I'm getting confused
Yeah, right.
now. Dawn Management is just a management piece. It does the human resource, does the accounting. We have a construction company. We have an insurance agency that actually just separated that into its own company. So we diversified.
Sure.
I knew I wanted to build houses back in 2011. I couldn't get it done. So in 2016, when Court Howard came along, we got FHL Bank grant. So we started building houses. We went to the county the first time and said, why don't you create a land bank? It's been a law in Pennsylvania for decades. So the commissioner at the time said, no, that's only for counties that are on the uptick, and we're not. So Court was a little disappointed. So we'll go back and do it again. So I went back, and they created a land bank for us. So, and they did for us, didn't they? We went to a meeting with the county and the land bank and Habitat for Humanity. And I just happened to find out about it because he never tells me anything. So he dragged me along with them, and they were talking about, they wanted $150,000 over 2 years or 3 years?
2 years.
2
To
years.
build a house, yeah.
And Habitat said, no, we can't do it. We won't make any money at it.
Right.
So I said, hell, 150 grand, I'll do it. So we did it. So that's how Dawn Enterprise came to be. It already existed. Now it became a legitimate corporation. And then they started buying buildings. And they're starting to, we own how many acres down here on the Lower East Side?
Oh, acreage, I'm not sure,
6
but as far
acres?
as lots.
I would
6
say
or 8
six-
acres?
six-
70,
And we keep getting
80
property.
lots.
We have enough property to build houses for the next 10 years. So, and then we started buying buildings. We bought I think we own 10 buildings altogether.
Commercial structures.
But, yeah, we bought some commercial buildings. Where my office was when we first started back in 2002 or 3, the guy decided to go retire. He had the building up for sale at auction. Nobody bought it. So I called him. I said, why don't you give it to me? He called me back 2 weeks later. He says, I can't give it to you, but I'll sell it to you for $150,000, which it's 5 stories, 77,000 square feet.
Wow.
So,
Three-story
and it's an
parking
amazing, the
garage.
guy always took care of it. I knew this because I was there.
Maintained.
So we had to do some things to it, but we've got it, would you say a third rented, maybe a little more? So we started with that, which I never wanted to do, but they talked me into it anyway. So then we bought 5 more buildings, and we bought these 5 buildings with the intent to create a multi, what do you call it?
Mixed-use development.
Mixed-use development. So we're gonna have wheelchair-accessible apartments, 9 of them on the top floors, and then some type of businesses on the bottom 2 floors in the basement. My favorite, I can't believe, we own a train station. It's
The
incredible.
old Union Station.
Yeah, it's incredible, and we got it rented to a
Whiskey distillery.
whiskey distillery, but
Craft
the company
brewery.
that they are associated with used to be
It's Wazalewski
Wazalewski's
Sausage.
sausage.
which was a huge thing in Newcastle back in
Local brand name.
local
That's-
brand name.
that's
They went to
regional.
Chicago. They've been in business there. Now they're coming back. So we bought we bought a restaurant and
Gas station.
a restaurant. We were going to create our own restaurant, but this Wazalewski's, they want to bring a market back in.
Start
So I said-
manufacturing
I
selling
said,
sausage.
yeah,
there.
yeah.
That's great.
Operate the
So,
restaurant.
and then back in, I think it was 2016, 17, we decided to grow hemp.
Yeah, God, we
And,
started talking in 17.
He and Mike McBride, one of our farmers, were initially involved with the state back in 2014 to get Elder Vogel to sponsor a bill
The legislation here in
to
Pennsylvania.
allow them to grow hemp. Just grow it. You could grow it, and then they had to destroy it.
Research purposes only, right?
Yeah, research
At
purposes.
that time.
So it in 2016,
That was in 17. You and I started talking.
17, we
Chris shared
decided to grow
Grow
it.
it.
So we put our application in, got our permit. We had a miserable yield.
Oh my!
Me, Phil, Lori, and her husband went and hand-picked it. And the bale is,
I think our
the bale is that big.
I can carry it around and lay it on this table. Too.
Yeah.
Right.
So that was 4 acres.
But
So
the experience was invaluable.
right.
The experience of getting that done put us on the road this year, if I may.
Well, let's go to the second year. How much did we grow the second year?
I think it was maybe 12 acres.
16 acres?
16 acres.
And what was our yield?
Much better.
We averaged 1.6 ton per acre.
So we had
Yeah.
about
So,
22
yeah.
tons.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was certainly less than what the varieties are promised to produce, but we're learning.
Again.
And these are smaller plots.
Major improvement over the first year for
Our,
sure.
our third year was 40 acres,
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
This year we're at 26.
26 acres, and what was our yield?
Well, we haven't taken it all down yet.
But it's going to
Well,
be.
guesstimation.
I'm going to say we're probably going to get about 2 ton an acre. So we're improving.
So
gonna
we
be a
are
little
getting a
more
lot
optimistic. I
better.
think-
Lori is learning a lot. Now we
I've been
we just,
instrumental.
we
truly,
just bought a
to get this.
warehouse, which they filled up with the hemp, which we sold. We're going to
Yes.
sell.
Yes. Hopefully. Right? Yeah.
So it seems
Yeah.
like the work you're doing is sort of preparing this town to become the hub of hemp production.
Our
We got,
intention.
we got
Yeah.
three major goals with this. One, to give the farmers an alternative crop. It's something that used to grow in Pennsylvania decades ago. It was actually, there was a requirement during World War II that they had X amount of their
Acres.
crops acres had to be hemp.
Hemp for victory.
Exact.
Yep.
Second thing is to create jobs and decortication for people with disabilities, because they can do that.
That's right.
So they can get involved. Everything I do
Fits right with the
is
mission.
based around people with disabilities and making them the owners and making them participants.
Yep.
We're going to let the rest of the world participate with us, to participate with people with disabilities.
Not
They
vice
can
versa.
play. We'll let them.
Yeah.
And the third objective is to, oh geez, I had this.
Just make this the
Thank you.
center for the processing.
Exactly.
That's necessary for the farms to
Deportation and
accomplish the first 2 goals that
Right,
he's mentioned.
right.
So,
Pardon?
Deportation and hempwood.
Decortication and hempwood.
Oh, hempwood, yes, yeah,
And
fascinating.
I believe that there is somewhere along the line that the hemp can be used for soil remediation.
Sure.
And I think it's already being used. We have a pig farmer in Iowa who's very much interested in it's not bedding, but they absorb the
carbon sequestration.
Yes. So just some amazing things going on. I think what gets me the most is just the way the community is supporting us. It's been amazing, and we do so many different things that we have a pretty good reputation. Except for me.
And myself, I put myself a close second. But
I talk to people all over the country that know about you and the work you're doing here.
Lord, that's
everyone's
Lori.
excited
She's
about it.
amazing.
No, the groundwork that Lori Daytner has put into this in conjunction with Mr. Court Howard has been phenomenal. And the recognition that they've garnered for our project is just unbelievable. And I use this joke all the time, and you're going to forgive me for saying it one more time.
Yeah, it's really a bad joke.
It is a bad joke, but it gets my point across. You know, I'd always tease Chris for as ugly as he looks, right? Or as dumb as he looks, his brilliance is line. And he is. He's not as good looking as I am. He's got to be admitted. But at the end of the day, his passion for the project and his vision about what he wanted to accomplish has enabled to attract the people necessary to get it done. Court Howard, Lori Daytner, Steve Cardella. I could go on endlessly with the list of people that are integral to the work that Dawn does. Not just the hemp, but I think the entire organization. And it's based on what Chris looked at 25 years ago. And it is a pleasure to be a part of that process. And I think the success that we've had to date is all due to that ability of his to sell that vision of what he's trying to get done.
Good.
And all wholehearted. And it's just a pleasure. So it doesn't actually seem like work. Right? You come and you're building and doing and seeing the results of the labors, and it's just a pleasurable thing to be doing. And
Awesome.
I think that's the measure.
Starts with an idea. It's like if you can't imagine it, then we can't get it done. So with people who are visionaries, like it's so important to this industry.
And you've had that for, like I said, I've been 35 years, had that distinct discipline and vision that brought this all to fruition for the last 25 years.
Cool. Well, it's amazing. I'm really proud of the work you're doing here. It's great, and I wish you the best of luck.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank
It's a
you
pleasure
very much.
talking with you again.
Yeah, so in listening back to that, I can hear it. It's really it's camaraderie and it's love, and you can tell there's a lot of heart in what they're doing. And that's something I've noticed throughout this entire tour. The people who are doing these things in hemp are doing it because they have heart, they care about people, they care about the planet, and that's what we need. That's how this paradigm shift is going to be successful. All we need is love. Anyway, so this next interview is with the Mayor of Newcastle. If you could introduce yourself, tell me your name.
Yeah. My name is Chris Frye, and I'm the mayor of the city of Newcastle.
Okay, and so what do you think about the Project PA Hemp Home?
I think this is amazing. I think it's exciting and it's innovative, something new for our community. And the organization is doing a wonderful job introducing this to a neighborhood that needed an identity. And I think this is just the start of creating an identity for the neighborhood on the east side of Newcastle.
Awesome. How would you feel if Newcastle became like a hub of hemp production here in Pennsylvania?
I think that'll be a great opportunity for us. Again, going back to our identity and in different pockets and different areas of the community, I think this is something new that would attract a different group of people or just a group of people that are interested in, organics and homes of this nature. It's introducing something new to us, and I love the concept, and I love the idea of doing it. I have some history in doing healthy homes and home builds, and this is something new. I've never seen it before, and the safety aspect of it, the organics, and then the ability to market it again to a different group of people or folks that are interested is astonishing to see. I grew up in this neighborhood, so I have some personal interest in it as well. I used to walk down this neighborhood and I saw the housing stock decline. I actually tried to invest in some homes in here and do it on my own, but having the commitment from Dawn Services, Dawn Enterprise is great to see because they're here for the long run.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much.
And then here's the clip from Action News in Pittsburgh, or at least the audio from the clip. I'll put the video on the show page for this episode.
The Lancaster Farming National Hemp Tour ended its journey right here in Newcastle at the first house built of hemp wood and hempcrete that's actually made out of this stock. As this RV drives along Spruce Street in Newcastle, a months-long national hemp tour ends. Eric Hurlock works for an agricultural newspaper and decided to take his family along for the journey to spread the message about how hemp can change the farming industry.
It's not CBD. It's definitely not marijuana. It's a row crop that farmers can plant and grow, and it can be the source of our raw materials for a new economy.
Hurlock says the best place to end the tour is at the historic hemp house that's almost complete.
No one else is doing anything like this.
Dawn Corporation, which stands for Disability Options Network, is in charge of the project PA Hemp Home.
The movement in hemp fiber is really taking off for use in textiles, plastics, disinfectant wipes.
Someone in need will live in the house made of hemp on the outside and on the inside. This is hemp stock. It can be made into hemp wood, and this wood is used for the flooring for the house. Hurlock says the tour shined a light on grain and fiber production so people can make food and materials out of hemp. He says moving in that direction can breathe new life into smaller cities.
It's got the potential to revitalize agriculture. It's got the potential to revitalize small town America. Like here, it's a great example in Newcastle.
Local and state officials on both political sides say they work together in support of the project and to fight for funding.
I think it's great. I think it shows that the community is doing everything it can to bounce back.
So to see something so monumental and innovative come to this neighborhood gives it great identity, especially for where it's going in the future.
The house is expected to be finished by the end of September. Reporting in Newcastle, Chandy Chapman, Pittsburgh's Action News 4.
And then Heather and the girls and we climbed into the RV one last time, and we headed east. We got on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. It was 4 hours and 57 minutes from Newcastle to our home in Chester County. And it was great. After having driven all over the country this summer and seeing so many beautiful things, Pennsylvania was a sight for sore eyes. I know that sounds like a cliche, but when you grow up around these green rolling hills and you get back to them again, it was wonderful. We started to see, the plain folk out in the fields doing their farming with horsepower, and it felt good to be back. And then as we're close to home, I think we were traveling through Lancaster County on the turnpike when this truck comes up on our right, and the guy slows down a little bit, and he's waving something at us, and he's kind of yelling at us. And so I slowed down and moved over to the right lane, and then he passes me on the left, and he rolls down his window, and he's holding up his phone, and he's yelling, "Podcast, podcast!" It was awesome. It was like icing on the cake. It was like, yes, we're back, and at least somebody is excited. So anyway, I had fun for that. So whoever you are out there, I think you were listening to our podcast, and I hope you're listening to this. Please get in touch, because I would like to, talk to you and say thank you. Send me an email. Send it to podcast@Lancaster Farming. And so, just like that, the tour was over. We got home that night. The following day, I emptied out the RV of all of our things, and I cleaned it, and I returned it. And oh my goodness, I have never, ever been so grateful to be home again. And I'm thankful that I don't have to drive that RV anymore. Now that I'm not driving it, I can, talk shit a little bit on it, because it was not a good RV. It brought us home safely, but oh my goodness, between the tires and the plumbing and just all the other things, it was we did not properly vet that RV. Okay, and I will say that the company RV Share, look them up, rvshare.com, they need to do a better job making sure that the RVs that they are renting from private owners are up to safety standards. Anyway, I'm glad to be home and not on the road anymore. All right, so I'm going to get out of here. Thank you for listening to this show, and thank you for listening to the whole series of tour episodes. So my name is Eric Hurlock. I'm the digital editor at Lancaster Farming Newspaper, the greatest agricultural newspaper in the world. Be sure to check us out online at lancasterfarming.com, and be sure to get yourself a subscription to our paper, because if you're in agriculture, this is the paper you're looking for. It's got everything you need. Anyway, you can get a subscription at lancasterfarming.com. Until next time, I will see you in the newspaper. Oh, hey, one more thing. Just last week, I was interviewed by Max and Steven on their AM talk radio and podcast called Understanding CBD. You can check that out at understandingcbd.com. I will also put a link to that on the show page for this episode. But they interviewed me about the tour, stuff that I saw, stuff that I liked, things like that. So check that out.
Industrial hemp.
Episode 152 of the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast is copyright 2021 by Lancaster Farming Newspaper, part of the Steinman Communications family. Today's show was written and recorded, edited, and produced by Eric Hurlock, and any music you hear throughout the show is courtesy of Tin Bird's Shadow. Also like to give a special shout out to Wild Fox Provisions for their generous and nurturing CBD oil that helped me throughout the tour. Check them out at wildfoxprovisions.com.